Hey everyone, and welcome to the webinar, PPC Quality Score Myths Exposed. I'm Anna Sawyer, and I'm here with Matt Hessler.
How's it going?
I will introduce us in just a moment, but first...
I think you just did.
I think I will introduce us more fully in just a moment. But first, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to run the webinar today. So first of all, this is being recorded, and you will absolutely receive an email later today with a best practice guide, a link to the slides, and a link to the recording of this webinar. So if you have sound issues, or if it drops out, or if you have to leave early, you will be able to have a copy of all of the materials a little bit later today. Next up, if you would like to use the hashtag today to tweet about the webinar, we will be handing out a $25 Amazon.com gift card to one of the people who tweets today. So please go ahead and tweet out some of the things that Matt says about Quality Score today, or something that I say.
There'll be some pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
Tweeting, we hope.
Tweet out the pearls of wisdom. You may see someone named Sarah from Trada in the chat today. Sarah is our awesome marketing intern here, and she will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And finally, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them directly into the chat box. Matt and I will get to as many questions as we possibly can at the end. We love your questions. I am Anna Sawyer. I'm the marketing manager here at Trada, and Matt Hessler is the director of account management. He's been working in search for more than 10 years. He really knows his stuff, and he's passionate about Quality Score.
I'm a total search nerd.
So let's get started. You know, Quality Score is incredibly complicated. Everyone knows that. Even just kind of wrapping your mind around the way it works within an auction can be very complicated. And you know, we are even learning things about Quality Score, especially because a lot of the truths about Quality Score are obfuscated from us by Google, you know, for a number of really good reasons. But we actually had Google in our office a few weeks ago doing a training specifically about Quality Score. And we learned a lot of really interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Google keeps Quality Score under wraps so that they can kind of continually tweak it. So, you know, we thought it would be interesting to press them pretty hard on what are at least the fundamentals that people can count on to predict how to improve their quality score of their campaign, or to create a new campaign with high quality score. So we're hoping to share some of that learning with you guys today.
Yep. So we are going to pull some of this information just directly from what we learned from Google when they were in our offices. We're going to talk about what elements are officially included in Quality Score, you know, which ones you should worry about, which ones you shouldn't, which factors improve, have no effect on, and can hurt your Quality Score. And, you know, personally, when I saw these slides, I was interested to see, you know, things, you know, that I thought, you know, were going to be detrimental to our Quality Score were actually, you know, not included at all. And so, you know, I think we're going to get to some fascinating content today.
I think, you know, people do have, the word myths is a good one, because people, there's a lot of hearsay, a lot of, you know, different forums and chat that people will have kind of speculating in Quality Score, and hopefully we can give you a little more solid foundation to build on.
So first off, let's talk a little bit about what is Quality Score. You know, just we're going to start right from the beginning, just so everyone's totally clear on how Quality Score works. So Quality Score, you know, fundamentally is a way for Google to make sure that, you know, when a searcher is using Google, the ads on the right-hand side of the search results page are relevant. You know, they want to provide a good, relevant experience to the user. Wasn't always like that. Back in the early days of the internet, you know, you saw a lot of crazy ads with flashing stuff and, you know, irrelevant content. You might still see that in some places on the web today. But you'll always see that the Google interface is very clean, and the ads on the right-hand side of the page are unobtrusive, and that they generally tend to be relevant. And it's because they've placed so much focus on Quality Score. And
it's funny, the example I give harkens back to like the early, like 2002, 2003 kind of era. You saw marketers, you know, learned how to manipulate Google's paid advertising to appear for things that were totally irrelevant to what they were doing. You know, they might be selling sneakers, but they knew there was, you know, millions and millions of searches a month for Britney Spears. So if I have a women's shoe store, I was just doing, you know, using Britney Spears as a keyword to just get my ads in front of a ton of eyeballs. And Google kind of decided this is a bad customer experience. Took them a few revs to figure out how they were going to meter that and make sure there was better relevance and give preference to people who they believed their ads were more relevant. to the query and give a better search experience for their users. So that's kind of how Quality Score came to be. We'll go through kind of a little bit of Quality Score history and then what it means to you today.
Yeah, and frankly, it's actually better for the advertisers too, especially if your focus is on sales or conversions. If you are advertising on search terms that are irrelevant, you're going to have a much lower conversion rate. So this kind of presumably it helps out everyone. So we'll just talk a little bit about the way it works. Search advertising works like an auction. This is relatively basic. It determines where your ad is placed on the screen and then how much you actually pay for a click. Now, Quality Score is one of the elements that is included along with your bid price. So yes, your bid price does affect how much you pay, and your bid price does also affect where you show up on the page. But Quality Score is another factor that is weighted along with your bid price. And again, the reason that they do this is because they want to reward advertisers for providing relevant content. So this is straight from Google. These are the elements that make up Quality Score. This is straight from the training that we did here.
Yep, so you've got these 5 major components. You've got the most obvious one, which is the relevance of the keyword and the ad to the search query. So they want to make sure that all 3 of those components, the query, the ad, and the keyword, are relevant to one another. They look at your landing page quality, which is both a assessment of relevance of the landing page as well as some other factors around load time and pop-ups and things like that. They look at your account history. So basically, that is, have you ever had anything flagged by Google for policy breaches, things like that. They look at your historical click-through rate. Click-through rate is a big determination factor for Quality Score. Google is basically saying, if this ad's shown 1,000 times and it's getting a 4% click-through rate, we think that's pretty good, so judging by how often people are clicking on this, we think it must be relevant to the searching public. And lastly, they do look at not just the relevance of the keyword to the search query, but the keyword itself to the ad. So you want nice, tight ad groups. Anna and I are huge fans of tight ad group structure here, and that good, small ad group structure makes sure that your ads are always semantically relevant to the query.
One point we always like to make is, in respect to click-through rate, this also helps out Google. They are rewarding a high click-through rate because this is an ad that's getting a lot of clicks.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the somewhat dirty secret of Quality Score is that high Quality Score ads are usually the most profitable ads for Google as well. So it's relevancy, yes, but it's also great for Google because these ads are generating lots of clicks, so it's increasing Google revenues.
So, and then they talk about other factors. Now, I hope this slide is showing up for you guys. It's taking a moment for us. They always leave us with this caveat that yes, there are some other factors as well. And we do get a lot of questions, from search marketers who say, for some reason, my quality score just went way down, or for some reason, I've seen a change when I haven't changed anything. Now, this could be based on the market, because the market is always changing, and it actually could be because of these other undisclosed factors that Google is using they're including in their quality score. And these could be a lot of things. They could be testing something. Nat, do you have any comments about what these other factors have been, what they could be, what the ideas are? And again, we did have a meeting with Google, but they do not disclose this stuff, so this is all pure conjecture.
Yes. Some of the things that we've seen internally here at Trada, that I've seen personally in campaigns that I've worked on, is Google has started to weight some multimedia factors. They like the idea of their search displays being dynamic and having interesting things in the results. So things that are localized. If you're running geo-targeting in your campaign, and you'll notice below your ad it might say Denver, Colorado, or wherever you're based. A lot of times, if the query is a local query as well, if I search for shoes in Denver, Colorado, and I've got a Denver targeted ad, that can increase your quality score. If you use Google ad extensions, like a location extension or page deep link extensions, things like that, that can also help your quality score. If you're, again, on the local side, if you have a Google Places link, meaning you've kind of put your brand or your store or whatever it is in to Google Places, that can help your quality score. And then things like video and actually product shopping feeds tend to get favorable results on the quality score side. So they won't tell us exactly how they weight these factors, but rich media stuff using Google extensions, either product extensions, location extensions, and Google Places all seem to have a positive effect on your overall quality score.
Yeah, and I think Matt made a really good point here. Again, I hope you guys are seeing the slide. It looks like the slides are moving a little slowly, and I apologize for that. Let me see if I can get this one up here. Google actually does not disclose how heavily they weight each factor. We can presume that they are heavily weighting click-through rate, partly because, again, it is self-serving for them. We also, again, have seen that that Google is definitely giving preference to sort of rich media type ads, especially lately. But it is important to understand at least the landscape of everything that's being considered. So I'm really hoping we're going to get these slides to move at an appropriate rate. So quality score just fundamentally is assigned at the keyword level, and it does affect both click price and ad position. And this is how quality score, again, this is from Google, this is how quality score is rated. They say that 1 to 5 is an underperforming keyword, 6 is average, and 7 to 10 is good. Now, a question that we get a lot is, I have keywords with quality scores of 3 and they're doing fine. So in many ways, this is merely a guideline.
That's true. Google differs a little bit from Search Alliance in this way. Ad Center Search Alliance has recently introduced their own concept of quality score. The good news is with their quality score, they actually will show you where you're strong and weak in terms of relevancy, landing page, those types of things. But below a certain point, which I believe is 5 on Ad Center, if you've got a keyword with a 5 or less quality score, it actually gets removed from the auction. Google, depending on market conditions, will still serve keywords with low quality scores, but they may not serve them all time throughout the day. So if you've got a peak period where you've got several competing advertisers for those 10 coveted first page ad position spots, they will take the 10 with the highest bid price and the highest quality score. So if you're bidding aggressively but you've got a low quality score, there may be times at the busiest point in the day when the auction is full of advertisers you're actually not getting shown. When you look at your overall stats, you'll say, well, I'm still getting clicks, so it must be okay. You could be getting out of the rotation for a prime period during your sales cycle.
So let's talk a little bit about specifically what improves quality score. So first of all, using ad groups to make sure each keyword triggers a relevant ad. Now, we've done a lot of content on ad groups, how to structure your ad groups properly. Go check out our webinar, The Architecture of Ad Groups, at trada.com/resources for some specifics on how you can make sure each keyword triggers a relevant ad. But this is all around just when you start your campaign and when you curate your campaign, always set up these small ad groups with very tightly relevant keywords within them, all driving to very relevant ads.
That's exactly right. So, small ad groups is a great way to ensure you're going to have that good relevancy between keywords and ads. You want to try to make sure that some of the popular queries are actually in the ad copy itself. So this can be a single word. You'll see that Google favors this both in terms of quality score and visually in the ad results. If that word from the query appears in the ad, it will appear in bold. So Google clearly makes a connection there and wants users to make that same connection. They also look for that consistent history of high click-through rate. We touched on this. This is basically their position is saying they're being democratic, that if a certain keyword ad combo has a great click-through rate historically, then the users have kind of voted through their clicks and said this must be relevant. This is also beneficial to Google because they like ads with high click-through rate. That means every time they serve them, they're more likely to make money in a pay-per-click environment. And then the other things are landing pages. I think Google just starts to brush on this with these what improves quality score. They want a landing page that doesn't provide a negative experience, meaning no pop-ups, respectably fast load times, things like that. But also they are doing a cursory look at that page for content. So if you can send people to a page that has the query string in the URL or at least it's a highly related page, look at things like your metadata, your title tags, your H1 tags. Is there some relevance between that and the ad group that is driving traffic to that page? Hopefully there is, and we see time and time again, the more relevance you have, especially with a few key things like title tags, the URL itself, and H1 content, that you can boost that quality score.
I have a question for you about the landing page.
Sure.
Does Google include the bounce rate when they are trying to determine if a landing page has a negative user experience?
They don't, because the only way that Google knows that bounce rate is if you're running Google Analytics. So it really depends. Google Analytics has become fairly ubiquitous, but to be fair to all advertisers, if you chose not to run Google Analytics, they still want to be able to rank people the same.
But you can use that data to determine, for yourself whether people are perceiving your landing page to be a bad user experience or if it's irrelevant.
Sure. I mean, bounce rate's a great indicator that, how well are people engaging with your site? What are they going to choose to do next? It's a great thing for people, marketers in general, to be looking at. Maybe not super impactful to your quality score.
So this final one here is important, especially as we go to look at the next slide. So the final one is having mostly highly quality score keywords in your account, and this is your whole account. So your quality score for your keywords will go up if they're in the account with other high quality score keywords.
That's right. So Google likes to see campaigns that are fairly concise. It's a little bit contrary to what a lot of people think of when they think about big, million keyword, long tail campaigns, things like that. Sometimes you can have an ill effect where you have poor quality score keywords that are kind of dragging down your average quality score for the account in total.
So again, this is going to be interesting as we move into the next slide, because this is what has no effect on quality score. And if we go down to number 4 here, it says, paused or deleted ads and keywords. So does that mean that if I have some poor quality score keywords in my account and I pause them, they now have no longer effect? No, they now no longer have any effect on my quality score?
That's exactly right. So if you want to test some things and you want to start to see what might have an effect, if you've got some poor performers from a quality score perspective, you can pause them. You don't have to go as extreme as deleting them if they've brought you valuable traffic in the past, but you want to just kind of toy with them for quality score testing purposes. You can pause them, and they will no longer have an impact on your overall score.
This is really good to know, although that historical data will still be in there. So
yeah, I mean, you'll still have to overcome the bad history, and you're still having to build some new history, but Google will let you do that by pausing stuff that has historically been bad.
All right, so sorry for jumping to number 4 here. We should probably start back at the beginning. So this was one of the ones that, in the training was surprising to me. Using multiple match types for the same keyword does not actually have any effect on quality score. Now, does using multiple match types for the same keyword within an ad group affect quality score, or does that simply dictate which keyword will dominate?
Yeah, I mean, Google...
These are kind of 2 different questions.
Yeah.
I think I'm confusing them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Google always tries to serve the ad that's the most relevant to the query. So if the query is, let's pick one, Malibu Barbie Corvette. If you're looking for a Malibu Barbie Corvette and you have that as a keyword that is an exact match, that is going to be the ad group that shows. Now, if you have that as an exact match, but you also have just the word Malibu Barbie broad match, in the same ad group, the user is going to see the same ad. So to Google, it doesn't matter that much. They will always try to relate it to the query that most specifically matches what was typed in.
Okay.
So you have to kind of figure out, are you just doing busy work that it's redundant anyway? The same ad would have shown in either of those queries.
Okay, but it is interesting to know that at least within an account, using multiple match types for the same keyword has no effect on quality score. Now, it may strategically allow you to build your campaign in a way that will affect quality score?
Sure. I mean, exact match terms help you to steer away from getting, matched with certain broad modifiers that you don't want, that maybe you didn't include in your ad copy, that can bring it down. So overall, using phrase and exact can help your quality score. You just don't need to use them all in the same ad group.
Yeah, good point. All right, so grouping high-performing keywords together in ad groups has no effect on quality score. Again, this is a little surprising.
So Yeah, I mean, they're looking across all of your ad groups. So people used to think I can isolate my high quality score keywords in one ad group and not suffer the consequences of poor quality keywords in other ad groups. Truly, Google is rolling this up, from keyword to ad group to campaign. So you want to be, it's way better for you to pause those keywords that are really dragging down your quality score than to just try to isolate them in a separate ad group.
Okay. I think that's an important point. So pause or possibly delete, but pausing kind of maybe makes more sense in terms of keeping your data. Pause those keywords that are not performing well.
Yep.
Figure out another way to make them perform better. And then finally, using tracking software like analytics. This can help you learn a lot about your campaign, but it has absolutely no effect on quality score whatsoever. So let's talk about what can hurt your quality score. So a lot of things, but these are really, really the big ones. Fundamentally, the number one thing that's always going to hurt your quality score is setting up your campaign in a lazy way where you just chuck a bunch of keywords into a big ad group and have them drive to one ad and have them drive to your home page or whatever. I mean, these are just all the sort of standard worst practices. But more specifically, we're talking about mismatching ads and keywords. So we can talk about this at the ad group level, putting keywords into an ad group and having them all drive to an ad that doesn't make any sense.
Right. I mean, we can use our Barbie example, right? If you've got Barbies and you've got, stuffed animals, you've got 10 types of toys, and you put them all in the same ad group, and the ad group just says great toys for kids, that's going to be way too general. If you'd broken out the Barbies in one and the stuffed animals in another and Tickle Me Elmo in a third, you guys can tell I've probably been doing the holiday webinars and getting ready for e-commerce. I've got all these products on the brain. But by separating those into separate ad groups, that's how you get properly matched keywords and ads. And so we want to keep those ad groups small. Don't do big, lazy ad groups. I would say any ad group with more than about 30 keywords is kind of suspect in my mind. That you should be looking at, can you break that down further? Consistently low click-through rate. In some industries that's tough to avoid, especially when things are hyper-competitive. You want to be testing new ad copy as often as you can to try to raise that click-through rate. You want to get rid of terms that are generating a lot of impressions but no clicks. The other thing you can do there is tighten up your match types. That's going to lessen the number of total impressions you're going to get, hopefully boost that click-through rate a bit. So, your click-through rate is very key, and you want to look at that. I know a lot of people get worried if they're running Google Display or Content Network that may be diluting their click-through rate. Google does look at that totally separately, so really you can just pay attention to your search click-through rate. And then obviously the poor landing page stuff, like we said, have your IT team make sure that you've got good load times, do some testing there to make sure your pages are loading in all browsers and loading fairly quickly. Try to reduce the use of pop-ups. Certainly try not to trigger them the minute the page loads. If you have like a pop-up for a live chat or some function like that, have it come on after a little while so Google and your users have already evaluated that page, and then it pops up and says, hey, can I help you? So hopefully those tips are things you can avoid to avoid hurting your quality score.
Guys, we're getting a ton of great questions. Keep them coming. Yeah, we will answer as many as we possibly can. And right now, I'd like you to just please go ahead and click directly onto your screen and answer this poll, so we can help you. So we can help deliver you guys some better content in the future. We will continue to do webinars on all of these topics, PPC tips for beginners. We're going to do some intermediate stuff. We love doing advanced PPC techniques. And then finally, if you're interested in broad SMB marketing help, we'd love to hear about that. We're going to be pushing out some more Facebook content soon as well. I should have added that to the slide. But we'll also start advising and putting together content on Facebook soon. So I will give you just a couple moments to complete the...
Nice. Yeah, it looks like a lot of people
are looking for advanced techniques.
They like the advanced techniques. Yeah. People, kind of runs the gamut here. People looking for broad SMB, beginner tips. We're always open to any kind of questions. Use that chat box. Right now, if you've got questions that are plaguing you about quality score or other things, we're working in search every day, and would love to share that knowledge where it's appropriate.
Yeah, and remember, you can always find content in all of these areas at trada.com/resources. So, let's just kind of bring it back to why you should care so much. If you have a poor quality score, you will be paying too much for clicks. You could be paying less. Your competitors will rank above you. Your click-through rate will suffer, and it will be hard to fix.
And worst of all, it's not included on here, is you may have a keyword that's really important to you that doesn't get shown at all. I mean, you just get removed from the auction at some point, and you'll get flagged in your account, and it'll say your quality score is actually too low to appear.
So let's talk a little bit about, what should I do to make sure that I get this high quality score? Starting from the very beginning, we're going to talk just a little bit about what you should do when you're setting up a new campaign and then what you should do when you're curating your campaign. And we'll go through these relatively quickly because I really want to get to all of your questions. So first of all, we'll always tell you this, keep your ad groups small. 10 keywords, thematically relevant. We are talking very, very, very tight. If we are selling Malibu Barbies, every single one of those keywords should be about, Malibu Barbie's Corvette.
That's right.
Every single one of those keywords should be about Malibu Barbie's Corvette. Don't sell, put keywords in your ad group for Malibu Barbie's other accessories or Malibu Barbie's friends.
Just make that into a new ad group.
Yeah, just make that into a new ad group. Next, make sure every keyword in an ad group is included in each ad. And the best way to do this is to make sure that your ad group is thematically relevant and drives to an ad that has all the same keyword in it. Finally, work backwards by writing ads based on landing page copy. So start, this is just a tip. You don't have to do it this way, but starting with your landing page, saying, what is this landing page about? And then working backwards, writing your ads, and then putting together your ad groups based on that. And then finally, in order to another thing we suggest is using a third-party landing page builder. We are big fans over here at Trada of unbounce.com. This is a really great service. They're friends of the show. They basically have an ability to build landing pages easily without the help of a developer, without the help of a designer, and they really sort of help to create that extra step that is not necessarily included in PPC that will make your PPC work really well.
I mean, we talk all the time in PPC about being kind of party promoters. Our job as pay-per-click marketers are to get the right people into the site, right? That we know some things about them semantically from their query. They've responded to our ads correctly. But once they get to that landing page, it's the job of the landing page to get them to convert, be it a sign-up or purchase, whatever it is. So you can bring the right people to the party, but if you don't play the right music and serve the right drinks, you'll never get them to dance.
I love that analogy. Using SEO tools to determine, if search engines are seeing your keywords on your page. So, we love, things like Raven tools.
WooRank is an easy, free one. Yep. Yeah. There's lots of tools out there to see what the engines might be seeing as kind of the most popular keyword themes on your existing pages, and say to yourself, well, does that match up with the keywords that I'm driving to this page? Would I, as a user, see this as relevant? I think that stuff's important.
And then finally, click-through rate. Best thing to do for this is just to write that compelling ad copy. Again, we have content on ad copy at trada.com/resources. We have lots of resources there on how to make sure that your ad pops out more than your competitor.
And if it were just that easy to just write good ad copy, we'd all be doing it. We understand there's a whole science there. It's lots of testing. I think search in general is not about the smoke and mirrors that it used to be. There's a few key things, and you've got to do them, you've got to repeat them, you've got to test and know your metrics.
Yep. All right, so moving along, now let's talk about what to do when you are curating your campaign. So we talked about what to do when you're setting up your campaign. Now what to do when you're curating it. So again, we always suggest constantly rewrite and test ads. No more or no less than 4 at a time. 4 is kind of the magic number for testing ads. You can test, 2 different headlines and 2 different calls to action. This is simple, and then after you have enough data, swap them out and keep the best performing ads and write new ads. And you should never ever stop testing.
That's absolutely right. Just test, test, test. That should be always part of your curation process.
And remember, this teaches you a lot about your message and about your business. You can learn what you test and use it across channels. It's testing. Testing is our fave. Sorry, I'm going to go through these relatively quickly because I'm getting so many great questions. Next, consider separating your ad groups to create even more targeted ad copy. If you see that your ad groups are performing well but could be performing better, or if you see that you have high quality score and low quality score in an ad group, separate your ad groups. Keep those high performing keywords, take your low performing ones, and work on that campaign. Try and make them work better. Next up, constantly rewrite and test your landing pages. This would be a great time for you to use a landing page platform like Unbounce where you can split test.
Yep. I mean, the thing with landing pages, people get frustrated because it's one of the elements they don't control. As a marketer, I can say, well, I can keep writing ad copy and improving that, but I go to my IT guy to get a new landing page, and it can take 3 months, and it's frustrating. It's not as iterative. You can't iterate quickly like you can with the ads. So something like Unbounce will let you take control of that a little bit. Do that A/B split testing. It's a WYSIWYG style. So you're just in your web interface, you're building this new page. You're testing different text. You're moving your form from the left to the right and seeing how users respond.
Yep. And then finally, using that first page bid estimate tool to make sure that your keywords are priced appropriately. This is something that's really important for click-through rate. The first page bid estimate tool is located in your AdWords interface, and it can just allow you to start off by pricing things appropriately and then constantly sort of check up. And again, this is an estimate.
Absolutely, and this is something that a lot of pro search marketers play with, and Anna will probably kick me under the table here that I'm going a little bit off the rails, but people talk about bid popping. Like if you're going to test a new ad group, sometimes you may start with your bids artificially high. The idea there is an artificially high bid with no quality score before Google assesses the quality score for that ad group or those particular search terms. They'll place it in a pretty aggressive position. This allows you, good position typically means good click-through rate. So if you get that good click-through rate to start, and then you get a decent quality score assessment as Google's looking at your relevancy, you can kind of hold a good overall quality score as you start to inch those bids back down. So little nugget there for new ad groups is, try a bid popping strategy where you come out of the gates with pretty aggressive pricing.
I am a big fan of bid popping. I am 97% sure that you invented that term.
Yes.
But that is your claim to fame. Matt Hessler, everyone, invented bid popping.
Woo!
All right, so we are going to take just a moment to talk to you about Trada and how Trada can help you with paid search. And then we will get to all of your questions, of which there are perhaps a record amount.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Many, many questions about quality score. So guys, whether you are an expert at PPC or someone just getting started, Trada can help you. Here's how it works. You are already running a PPC campaign or you want to get started. We actually have a crowd of paid search experts who live around the world, and they work in our marketplace. Now, when you launch a campaign in Trada, they will apply to join your campaign in multiples, and then they will work based on performance. And so it actually doesn't cost any more than if you were to do it yourself. And because of multiples of these experts are working on your campaign, you get this great diversity of thinking. It's like having 5, 10, 20 people all working on your campaign at the same time. Well, it is 5, 10, 20 people all working on your campaign at the same time, coming up with massive numbers of long-tail keywords. They have the time to constantly curate. They already know how to make super tight ad groups. And then as an advertiser, you manage this from a high level. You still maintain complete control. We show you all the data. It's exactly like doing it yourself. It costs the same as if you were to do it yourself. You can run on Google, Yahoo, and Bing, except that someone else does all the hard work.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you, when we talk about constantly rewriting ads and trying to improve those click-through rates, I mean, how many of you, and I'm raising my hand over here, you start writing those same ads over and over, and you get so brain-locked in your focus, like, oh, I have trouble coming up with new creative ways. If you could have 8 or 10 or 12 pay-per-click experts working on your campaign for you, you'd be shocked at the ad diversity, the different strategies, the different language they use. It's really compelling. We see some awesome ad copy writing in our marketplace.
Yeah, and best of all, they already know how quality score works. And as I mentioned, there are no fees, no setup fees, no management fees, and we run on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more, please just type "I'd like a demo" into the box, and Sarah will help you get that set up. So let's move towards the questions.
Yeah.
Give me just a moment here to get organized, because boy, do I have a lot.
So many questions.
Yeah, you know
exciting.
what? I'm just gonna kick it off. So Steve wants to know, and this is a great question. A lot of people ask this. How often is quality score updated?
So it's a good question. Google looks at this, and this is one of those weighting factors that they don't tell you very often. They will say for most campaigns that it happens every day. It's really based on the number of impressions that you get, with click-through rate being a particularly heavily weighted factor. That they want you to have a decent amount of impressions to assess that click-through rate as a major component of quality score. So think about it that way. If you're in a high-volume space, you're in mortgage lending, automotive, dating, your quality score could be getting looked at several times a day. If you're in a very niche space, you may find that your quality score isn't changing all that often.
Great, thanks. Jeff has a question just specifically about AdWords. Can you review where and how to examine my quality scores? Where can we find this within AdWords?
So I think the easiest way to do this is to go to any one campaign within your AdWords account, click on the Keywords tab, and bear with me, I'm doing this all from memory, I'm just trying to picture the screen. You go to the Keywords tab, you'll see a list of all your keywords. There's a box there that will let you add columns. If your quality score is not already shown as a column, I would add that as an optional column, and then you can export that report. I find more often than not it's easier to put into Excel and do some sorting in Excel, break things up into the buckets that we described earlier. Take your 6 and above and just move those out of the way. Those are doing pretty well. Those are fair to above average. And then look at your kind of 1 to 5 set of keywords. You might even break that into your 1, 2s, and 3s, and then your 4s and 5s, and figure out what can I do to fix these particular keywords.
I think I may smell the need for a very tactical live webinar on how to do this.
Yeah, we
could
go
more complicated than it seems like it needs to be.
We could go through that in the AdWords interface. They do have some good tools to show you that. And honestly, Ad Center in Microsoft has some awesome tools too. I know we've been concentrating on Google. Google has more of a history. People have more questions about Google in general, but Ad Center's got some really cool stuff where they'll show you specifically. You do that same kind of sorting. You look at your keywords with poor quality score, and they'll tell you if they think it's a relevancy problem or a landing page problem, and at least point you in the right direction. Yeah, and we did talk specifically about AdWords today because we had this Google training and we wanted to bring all of this ahead of you. But Microsoft Ad Center, where Bing and Yahoo both run, does have a version of quality score as well. If you're interested in learning about that, we did touch upon it in our webinar, How to Score with Quality Score, also available at Trada.com/resources. And in the Trada Marketplace, we do run campaigns on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So here is a question that I think encapsulates many other people's questions and is an excellent question that we could probably talk about forever. Alex wants to know, if you have an old account with very poor CTR, should you A, open a brand new AdWords campaign, or B, keep the account and improve all factors pertaining to quality score? Now this is another topic that I thought was interesting, and it actually raised something of a discussion in our Google training. The thing that they said was, unless it is, absolutely dire, we suggest keeping your old account. Yep.
For a number of reasons.
They like the history. They would rather see people, basically rebuild internally their own campaigns. And I will say, we push back on this, and we're trying to get to some of the true answer around whether things are account level or campaign level. We got some different opinions, even from the Googlers who were here doing the presentation. So what I would say is keep the same account, potentially start a new campaign. They were very clear that the roll-up definitely goes keyword ad group campaign. Whether or not it affects your overall account, there was actually some argument even among Google. I believe it does not. It makes sense if you're an agency or you have 10 different websites, that one of them could have a bad quality score, but the other one could be great. If they're totally different domains, why would Google look at them as being the same thing? So if you set up a new campaign, even if it's an old domain, that allows you to restart with good structure, tight ad groups, aggressive bidding to start would be my suggestion to get those good positions out of the gate and good click-through rates. Leverage any of your learnings on your best performing ads historically, so you come out of the gate with good click-through rate, good ad position, good relevancy. And before you do any of that, make sure you feel confident in your landing pages. It's a lot of work to rebuild the whole Google campaign. And if you rebuild the whole thing only to learn that the thing that's really dragging you down is your landing pages, it's not exactly time well spent.
I think that's an excellent answer. And you know, this is something that a lot of people have trouble with. You know, I mean, it's hard to start a new campaign. It is generally, you know, sort of the literature advises against it. But at some point, I think you have to say, this is too bad.
Yep.
Margaret asks, do you recommend splitting out low quality score ad groups into their own account?
So again, I would say potentially their own campaign. First of all, you have to assess, why do I want to keep these? Are they if they're high conversion but low quality score, they're still important to you, then yes, I would put them in their own campaign with their own budget. And I would monitor them pretty specifically. I would still try to do all the best practices to raise their quality score. If they're important to you in general, then of course you want to make sure they have a decent quality score so you're getting better position and lower cost. If they're not that important to you, really look and say, can I afford to lose these keywords? And maybe by getting rid of them, I will lift the overall quality score for the rest of my campaign. So you may get into needs of the few versus needs of the many, and it may be worth it for you to get rid of some of those keywords.
Great, thanks, Matt. Again, great questions, everyone. Keep them coming. We'll answer for about 15 more minutes. If we don't get to your question, please follow up with Sarah at sfox@trada.com, and she will make sure that the question gets to the right person. So Lisa's up next. She says, with sound techniques, how long should it take a new account to get to a competitive quality score? Matt?
So that, again, it does depend a bit on your industry, but with sound techniques, I mean, a brand new account, they should be evaluating your quality score pretty quickly. I would think most people would have positive indicators within, you know, the first 7 to 10 days, and then you have to figure out what you need to continue tweaking. Ad copy is the biggest one that you're probably going to go through a few revs on. It's easy to change. You can iterate pretty quickly and hopefully keep pushing up both that relevancy and that click-through rate through new ad copy. So it's not like if I do everything right, I can be really good after 10 days and walk away from it. It does need some nurturing over time. But we see that all the time. I mean, people come in and almost immediately are seeing, you know, 6s, 7s, and 8s in quality score. Honestly, if there's any of you out there that have quality scores of 10, that itself is kind of a mythical animal. You see it very infrequently. And so, you know, your goal shouldn't necessarily to have a 10 on all of your keywords. Your goal should be to be in that safe zone of 6 and above. That's going to bring you better ad position for lower prices.
It really, you know, I do love this concept of bid popping that you perhaps didn't invent but coined. You know, it seems like it really just sort of kicks you off for success, but, and this is a question for me, are there any times when you shouldn't do that? What if you don't have the budget for that? I mean, like, how much budget should you allocate? How high should you bid?
Sure.
How does this whole thing work?
I mean, I get that it's, you know, it's a luxury that not everybody has. If you're highly budget sensitive and you've got 10,000 keywords and only a $3,000 a month budget or a $100 a day budget, that gets really hard to push bid prices on all of those keywords. But figure out, you know, again, if you've done the right things of nice tight ad groups, you'll know your kind of priority keywords and priority products. I would price those into number, you know, 1, 2, and 3 position for sure to start.
Right. It's not worth it to bid high if it doesn't get you at the very top.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to be willing to commit to a truly high bid, high enough to get that good position. You know, the flip side of that is at Trada and in general, I do not recommend carrying a number 1 position for a long time. Number 1 position is, you know, oftentimes 20 and 30% more expensive than position 2 or 3, and it's actually, you know, you get a lot of bounces or high abandon rate from those clicks. People click on it very impulsively. It's the top listing on Google. They don't really read your ad. They click on it and then they back out. It was a very expensive click for you. So I'm not suggesting that that's a long-term strategy, but for your first, you know, 1,000 to 5,000 impressions, it's nice to appear in those top spots. Get yourself maybe a little artificially high click-through rate and then back that down. Thanks,
Matt. So everyone, you really should consider following Matt on Twitter. His Twitter handle is @FasterStill. He loves getting new Twitter followers from webinars.
I do.
I think that's why he keeps agreeing to do these with me. So Thomas asks, if you purchase new domains for a landing page and duplicate some content, does it impact the quality score?
If you purchase new domains...
I think he may be asking about the SEO implications of duplicating content.
So Google's recognition of duplicative content is pretty impressive. They suggest that you have about 20% different text on a page. So I would look at that as anything spiderable, which is title stuff, metadata, and on-page content. You want about 20% different keyword content on page A versus page B. Otherwise, Google will sniff that out and say this is a duplicate of another, page or campaign. They're pretty impressive at doing that. So, if you're going to run multiple domains, take the time to write, content that's a little bit different, mix up those meta tags a little bit, and create a truly unique page. And then you can evaluate the two domains to see which is getting better quality score.
Great. So here's a question from Marco that I actually think may have been addressed in that Google meeting. Account history is taken into account for keywords. If a keyword is deleted that has a low quality score and CTR from the account, then a new campaign, important point, is created with the new ad groups. Then the keyword is reintroduced with the same ad copy. Will the quality score and click-through rate reset? If so, will Google look at the keyword as a new keyword and not the history behind it, so it should be easier to rank more quickly?
So you've got four basic factors. You've got the domain, you've got the keyword, the ad, and then the landing page, which essentially could be the same as the domain, but usually it's a deep link kind of page. If all four of those factors are the same, nested within the same account, within the same account, but in a new campaign, you will not overcome your poor quality score from your history. Now, if you start to mix that up and it's the same keyword, new ad, new landing page, they will start you fresh. And actually, truthfully, in both cases, they start you fresh, but they will assess it. If all factors are the same, they will assess it and put you right back to where you started very quickly. If you've made some changes to the domain, the landing page, the ad, you may find that you will get a lift and a bit of a fresh assessment. It also depends how many other keywords are in that ad group. If you try to just use AdWords Editor and export a bunch of ad groups and then start a new campaign and import them as is. I've seen a lot of people do this for kind of a time savings, thinking that just under the new campaign they would get a clean bill of health. That typically does not work. You want to mix it up a little bit, at least go to town on a new ad. And
hey everyone, this is Anna Sawyer. I'm sorry to say that we are kind of in a snowstorm right now, and I believe we just lost power. I am actually unable to advance slides, and all of our phones turned off. So I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We only had a couple minutes left anyway.
Try to answer questions by email where we can.
Yeah, absolutely. You all had so many excellent questions. Please go ahead and email anything you have left to sfox@trada.com, and we will do everything we possibly can to answer them. Thanks for being patient with us through this inclement weather issue. It really is a blizzard outside right now.
We're going to go make some quality score snow angels.
Yes, we are. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully you will be able to make a snowman today as well. This is the end of the webinar.